by Faith podcast. I am your host, Reese, and today I have a very, very, very special guest. I know I always say that, guys, but I'm super excited because this is one of my colleagues. Her name is Ashley Toliver. Ashley, tell the guest hello.
Hi, guys. Nice to meet you all.
Yes, and today I'm going to be interviewing her about her story of resilience, and we'll be getting into some things. So I'm happy because she is the first PA that I've ever had on the show. So I'm just excited. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for
Of
having me.
course. Now, where are you calling in from?
I am calling from Maryland,
Maryland. Like the DMV. Oh,
DMV.
man. What part of Maryland?
I'm in Clarksburg, Germantown
Okay.
area. So most people, when they say DMV and they don't live here, the proximity from DC is about 40
40
minutes.
minutes. Okay, that's not bad compared to hours and hours. Lord, when I went to the DMV, we had a family reunion in Baltimore. It was downtown. And the traffic, like I was on 95 and it was like 6 p.m. and I was trying to get off this one exit and it took me a whole nother hour. I was like, never again. Never again.
You won't come back. You're not going to come back and visit
No,
anymore?
I'll come back.
No.
I'll come back. I still have family there. I forgot the name. It starts with a T. Something Park. It's like right outside of DC. Hmm?
Tacoma
Yes,
Park.
that's it. My uncle lives there.
Yeah.
When I was up that way, he let me come and spend a night with him and his family. Well, our family. So I came up there, spent some time with him, and then I have a little bit more family at the tip of Virginia and in Washington, and that's it.
Like Arlington,
Yes.
Alexandria.
Fairfax.
You're in Texas,
Yes,
right?
I'm in Plano. Yes. So
Where's
I'm
Plano?
like 30 minutes from Dallas.
Oh, girl, I'm a
Cowboys
fan.
fan. Then you should come visit. You'll fit right in. These people here, they'll ride or die for Cowboys. I'm just like, Lord.
DC for L, okay? I grew up in North
North
Carolina, though.
Carolina. Okay. I grew up where? Newark, New Jersey. So we left Newark, went to South Carolina, and then I left South Carolina, went to Virginia, and then ended up in Texas. So, yes.
Okay.
So I'm all over, and my accent is gone. But it's okay.
It's a neutral
Yeah.
accent. I'm still country. I love it. It's stuck with me, girl. It's stuck. I've been up here since 2004.
2004. Okay. What made you move? Wait, where did you move from? North Carolina?
Yeah, I came up. So I grew up in North Carolina. In my freshman year, I went to Hampton
Ooh.
University. And so where I live in North Carolina, I live like the
Um,
northeasternmost part. So Virginia's not far. So Hampton is only like an hour from my house. So Virginia Beach is like an hour. So from DC it's only like a 4-hour drive.
oh,
So I went to Hampton my freshman year and I transferred up here the second year. So I came here 2004 and I've been up here ever since.
okay. Okay. Yes, we left. Oh, Lord. So 2006, 2007, when I was somewhere up in middle school, we moved to South Carolina.
You did not have to make me feel old like
No,
that,
I
okay?
feel
Because
like
I
a
graduated.
baby. I do. I feel like a baby. But I'm always the
You're
baby. Everywhere I go, I'm the baby. I am. I'm just like I have to accept it at this point. It's been going on long enough. But it is getting to a point where I'm phasing out to be the old person now, and there's other people younger than me, and I'm just like, am I becoming the old people? But I think I am. I am. So I was like, it's okay. Finally, I'm older than someone.
Yeah, it happens, and it happens really fast, like it's like one day you're 21, and one day you're 25, and one day you're
I
like
still
35
don't
or
know how
something.
I got to 28. I literally don't. Yesterday I was 25 and 3 years just zoomed by and I was just like, I'm almost 30. It's coming for me.
Girl, wait till you
It's
30.
coming.
Okay. 37, and I'm like, I just graduated from PA school like last year. It feels like,
Yes. Yes. Time needs to slow down. It needs to slow down. Where did you go for PA school?
GW.
GW. Okay. Yes, I've had a couple
Georgia.
of mentees that wanted to go there, and we've been working on their acceptance, getting into that school. GW. Yep, yep. I've had a couple that wanted to go there. That was on their list. And then before you went to PA school, what was your major?
So, so when I went to Hampton, I was actually a computer science major. And yeah, this is a drastic
Yeah,
change, right?
just like
Um, I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I went to school initially, and I had some family influences. Were like, oh, they need more African Americans in STEM and technology, and it's a good field, which it
mhm.
is, right? And I was always really, really, really good at math, like
Yeah,
naturally. So it was kind of me being led, like more led to it, but I really didn't know what my passion was, which a lot of us don't. You're leaving high school, like what do you know? Like you have these ideas about what you want to do and stuff, and it just does not turn out
right.
that way. So I was a computer science major, and I did great, like writing program, but I hated
Oh,
it because I'm more of a people person, right? So like sitting in a lab, you just sit in the lab on a computer all day. No one really talks, and it's just
yeah,
quiet. And I was like, yeah, this is
right.
not it. So when I transferred to
Mhm.
Howard, I was a physical therapy major.
Cool.
Um, yeah, so I majored in physical therapy and got a bachelor, in health
Uh-huh.
sciences. Because I was always an athlete, like I ran track in Junior Olympics, and so I felt like that was something I would be interested in,
Mhm.
like like kind of like I was coming from like a sports
Yes.
medicine, like hey, it'll be cool to work with athletes. Can
Yeah.
you see me?
Oh, no. Yeah, I can see you. I was just kinda, like, agreeing with you.
Oh, and so I was coming from like maybe I want to do like something more like sports medicine with athletes or
Right.
whatever. Then I when I got in school and started taking more science classes, then I thought, I may want to go to medical
Yeah.
school. Hmm. So then I crammed in all these classes to take the MCAT. Like it was like the junior year.
Uh-huh.
Most people start this process in the beginning. I had no idea what a PA was at the
Uh-huh.
time, because Lord, if I would have known, like Howard had the 5 year
Yes.
thing, I could have been done if I would have known. Okay, I didn't know anything about PA. So anyway, I finished that. Then I got a master's in public health.
Yes.
um and I worked, and then I met a PA that was taking care of me because I have Crohn's disease.
Crumbs.
um yeah, I have Crohn's, and so in that whole process of seeing the GI, I used to see a PA all the time, and I was like, what exactly do you do? Because I got to know her and learn more, and I researched the PA profession and stuff, and that's how I ended up applying to PA school.
Okay. Okay. So we learned how we got to PA school, and then how was your experience through PA school? And when we finally made it to the end, how did we get to where we are now? Because I know that you have your own business and you are a PA and you running the show. You got on your shirt. For those of you guys who are watching, yes, go look her up if you're in the area in the Maryland area. Of course, if you need some help, go seek.
We
Redicare.
actually come to you.
Oh, it's
We make house
mobile.
calls.
Okay, okay. Imma shut up and Imma let you talk because 'cause I'm thinking more about it. Yes.
PA school, what was it like? Well, one, I went back to PA school when I was 20. When did I start? I was like 27, I think, when I
Uh-huh.
started. So, like being out of school and working was an adjustment. Like, going
Right,
back to school was an adjustment. It was, when you take that gap, when you're in school and you just keep going, you're kind of in the school
right.
mode. But then when you work and you've done everything else and going back to school, and now you got bills and all this kind of stuff, and you're going back to school and you can't
Yeah.
work. It was like it was an interesting
Mhm.
transition, but I had good support. Yeah, I was engaged at the time. Well, I got engaged the first year of school, but I had a good support system, and I didn't have to worry so much about oh, how I was going to pay for things when I went to school. um So GW, it was a really good
Mhm.
program. School was very hard and fast. The first year, when we were in undergrad, you take, your 18
Right.
credits. But Lord, I mean, we started the summer, you had like 7 classes or 6 classes, and then, the fall was, more, it's heavy clin med, and it's a lot of information. These aren't like easy, easy classes. In the summer you had a couple of classes where you wrote papers, but it's really hard and
Mhm.
fast. So to me, it was a lot of adjustment in terms of learning how to take tests again, learning how to
Yes.
study, learning what information is like
Yes.
pertinent and not,
Yes.
because when you want, when you want to do, you want something so bad, you want to know everything, and it's
Right.
impossible, right? Um, so I was the class president,
Oh.
and I was the president of my PA class, like co-president. So within that time, I still try to make time for
Right.
personal life. It's school. When you start PA school, it's all school from the time you wake up to you get out. After being in class all
Right.
day, you got to study all day. You're frustrated and you're tired, and as soon as you stop one thing, the next day y'all are learning the whole. There's no, oh, you got a day off, or we ain't gonna learn. We're not gonna learn anything today. Let's start.
I
No, it's like
wish.
starting tomorrow, and I'm like, you barely have time to take care of yourself. Okay, so I try to make it a point for self care to on Sundays hang out with my fiance or get something to eat or do extracurricular stuff. We did volunteer
Mhm.
work, and so it was pretty fun. My class wasn't that
Oh.
diverse though. That's something I wish was different, and there was more support for minority
Mhm.
students. But overall, I felt like the education was strong, and I learned a
Mhm.
lot. I graduated in
Okay.
2015, and I initially started working in an urgent care that I rotated
Mhm.
at. I left there and went to ER,
Okay.
and I've been working in ER and urgent care essentially since I graduated. So like 7 years now.
Oh, wow. Okay, I got you. 36-year-old female presents to the
Yes. Yep.
Yes. Wow. Okay, so the 12, is it like for sure, like if you're on the fast track, or did they ever put you in the back? Like, did they put you, because sometimes you come into the ER and they're like, oh, this is not, you know, red, code red. Let's put you on the fast track. You can get seen by a nurse practitioner or a PA, and then you can go home, kind of. Or did they put you in the
Mhm.
back?
Oh, we were everywhere. So I know different states have different rules in terms of what they do with their
Mhm.
PAs in the ER. And I've seen so much of change even from when I started and when I
Mhm.
graduated, because our profession is growing
Yes.
rapidly, and a lot of ERs were just more so using PAs in the main
Hmm.
ERs. So I think prior to like around the time that I started, a lot of ERs were still trying to use PAs in the
Yeah.
fast track. So the first hospital we didn't really see, they wanted us to pretty much see all the fast track
Hmm.
people, and the doctors would see like the main side people. But then I went to a bigger hospital system, and I saw
Yeah.
everybody. Like I kind of was in the like the fast track, but also in the main ER, and that hospital structure was good because there were enough of us where they kind of allowed you to go where you were interested
Oh.
in. So some people really like peds, so they would work primarily the ped
Hmm.
side. Some people love fast track, and they were better and faster. And then some of us wanted to or were interested or pretty good at doing, like the higher acuity people. So we would, be in the main side. Um, so that hospital, I learned so much. I took care of really sick
Yes.
people. The last ER I was just working in PRN, I was in the red zone as a solo. Like overnight, it was just one doc and me.
Ah.
And so I saw everything from stroke to, I was the primary person, stroke, heart
Yes.
attacks, intubation, all of that.
Wow. Okay. So then I'll ask you, in the midst of doing all that, in between those two hospitals at the time, did you ever meet cuz sometimes this can be common where you meet doctors that don't like mid-levels or don't want to respect mid-levels or don't want to give us our props for what we can do, and that our training is similar, it's just cut down some. And we don't go through residency, and we don't do that, and we don't do this. But the like, do you ever, or have you ever ran across someone that just didn't want to like give you your props, give you your flowers, or at least respect you until they could see what you could really do, and then they were like, "Oh, okay."
Absolutely, absolutely. What I found is like my group at the prior hospital and even the last hospital respected PAs and utilized us a lot. And I think a lot of it is generational too.
Mhm.
Like the older
Yes,
docs, they train with PAs, and there are a lot more younger physicians and
right.
stuff with the last two hospitals I were at. They were more familiar with us and more willing to
Mhm.
teach and more willing to um like yeah go like encourage you to be autonomous, one because they realize now that they need like we're very
Yes.
useful, right? And if even if it's a learning process for us, but it
Mhm.
helps them. If we start off with a sick patient, it helps them, but they can come and
Yes.
assist. But I have more so had like definitely making consult
Mhm.
calls. I have had a couple of doctors that just would not talk to the PA, even though I'm the person that took care of the patient in the ER. Like I can have a patient and I would always let my attending know what's going on just in case something went wrong, or just to say, hey, like I got this sick patient, this is what's
Mhm.
going on. Just in case something went left or someone asked them something that it was like, oh, I don't know
Mhm.
anything, right? So I've had instances where I've taken care of this patient from
Mhm.
top to bottom, okay? Told my attendant about it just for them to get a heads up, but they trust me, so they don't, they know that I will
Mhm.
come to them. And when I call the consultant, they didn't want to talk to me just because I was a PA. And then the attendant was like, well, that makes no sense because I don't know anything about the patient. I'm not taking care of the patient. But that those consultants would not talk to me solely because I was a and the funny thing is those very consultants actually had PAs that work for them.
Lord, I'm just that just
It is. There's a level of disrespect
yes.
sometimes. I think it comes from me. It has mostly come from an outside, you know, consultant, or if someone's coming in the ER to see your patient, it's just like, no, I want to talk to the doctor. And I'm like, okay.
Listen, I don't argue with them because I'm just like, I do psych outpatient. So sometimes I get people that like, "Are you a psychiatrist?" And I'm like, "I'm a psych PA. I'm a PA, a physician assistant that is in psychiatry and substance abuse." "Oh, so you're trained just in psychiatry?" "No, I'm trained in all of medicine, but like I chose to go into psych, or I got the opportunity to go this way." "Oh, okay. So if you're trained in all of medicine, do you really know like the and so I got tired of people asking me that, and because my face can sometimes look like a baby face. So I get older adults just like, "Are you old enough to be seeing me and my son?" And so I just put all my degrees up on the wall in the back of me so that they know that that's the name you have on when you schedule your appointment, and I am her. I got that. I have obtained that. I know I look like I'm too young or whatnot, but trust me, I will take care of you. And if I don't know what I'm doing, then I can refer you to somebody else. I'm not going to hurt you, I promise. But it can be rather
What
frustrating. Hmm?
do you get that mostly from patients, or do you get any flack from other
No,
providers?
I work with primarily nurse practitioners in psychiatry. Some are cool and some are just like, well,
Mm.
I can do blah, blah, blah. Because there's a power struggle. It truly is. But especially in
Mhm.
psych, because they're just like, oh, they get to work autonomously and we have a SP. But I think that the playing field has leveled out in Texas because they have to have a supervising physician too. So then it's just like, oh,
Oh,
yeah, because there's some medications like stimulants and they can't write benzos. I can write benzos, but I can't write stimulants. And in Virginia, I could write for anything. So I was just like, what's the problem? But then I had to remind myself all 50 states are different. So I was like, okay, this is annoying, but like me and my supervising physician, we cool. I just be like, listen, I think I want to put this person on Adderall or whatever. He'd be like, all right, he write for it and just keep going because he trusts me. We have a good relationship. But I've been
Mhm,
places where I didn't have a good relationship with my supervisor, and it was like forever, or like jumping through hoops trying to get something approved or written for. So I was like, I don't have time for this, but I'm in a good place now. But I would definitely say I could probably get that more so from the patients. I think at my job, because I speak up so much
mhm.
now about like my experience and some of the things I've seen and how I would treat this and how I would go about that, that they don't, I won't say they won't dare, but they have not questioned me. But the patients, they'll see my face and they're like, oh, you must be. I haven't got the secretary or like the nurse or anything like I got in Virginia. But in Texas, I've gotten, oh, okay. So when are we going to see the provider? I'm her. Again, here go those degrees. I'm like, I'm her. And then they go, oh, like they don't look at me for a whole 5 to 10 minutes. They're looking up and they're reading the degrees, but they're still engaging with me. And they're like, okay. And then they just go through with me. But in Virginia, I had a very different experience, because some people would come in and they're like, well, I primarily would like to see this color person or this ethnicity or this gender versus you. And you can't be the provider. Well, how did you pay for? I literally had a patient ask me, how did I pay for school? And I was just like, well, yeah, I
What?
was like, well, there's financial aid and there's loans.
It's none of your business.
Child, that's why I had.
What part of Virginia?
I
You in
was
North
Roanoke.
Virginia or
I was
Northern Virginia?
Roanoke. I was all the way over there by Tennessee, close to the. Yeah, I was up in the mountains.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You have those moments where people are, you run into that, and I feel like even going to, what I'm saying, even going to GW and other places,
Hmm.
right? You run into these diversity issues, and it always it's always crazy to me because our experience is different, right? How people don't see like any kind of colorism or racism in medicine, and it's not always overt. Like the microaggressions are real,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's from patients or from staff sometimes, because I feel like sometimes there's always an you have to prove yourself first, and that's not
Right.
everybody, right? Like, because I work with various people of all colors, and some people just respect you as
Hmm.
you are. Again, and I think a lot of it is a generational thing. Like the younger people are more, we're more cultured and more understanding of the
Hmm.
climate, right? Whereas sometimes with older people, like, and especially in the DMV area, you have a lot of high profile people or people that have, good careers, and they're just, some people are just snobby,
Hmm.
right? And they're just, whether it's your age or your gender or your race, they just feel like they want what they want, right? You could be the best clinician there, but sometimes there's an assumption that you're not as intelligent, you're not as experienced. Like, how did you go to GW? How did, I mean? It's this
Right.
thing.
Right. And I just be so sick. I got so sick of it. Yep. I just put up the degrees and you can look, you can read. That's my name. I'm the same person you booked with. That's my name. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, really, that's me. But yeah, I definitely say psych. I love psych, but you know, it has its perks, pros and cons. Definitely.
That's always interesting. Like, where did have you ever worked in like inpatient psych or a hospital
During
or
my
ER or anything?
rotations, that's the only time I ever stepped foot in the hospitals. During my rotations, I love the hospital because I always wanted to do a code. And I would always ask my preceptors, did y'all have a code last night? Did y'all have a, because I wanted to know. And then my preceptor was a nurse practitioner. And she was like, kiddo, if we have a code, I'm going to fail you. And then she would laugh about it. But she was like, no, really, I don't want a code. And I was like, okay. And then it was one day when they were like, cold blue room 800 and so on. So I was like, can I go? And she was like, yeah, you can go. So I go running down the hallway. I saw the attendant, the main attendant and his nurse, and they were running. I was like, hold the elevator, hold the elevator. And I got on the elevator with him. And it was like the elevator was going super fast. And we were like, and we got to the we got to the floor and everybody was all crowded around and we were looking and it had turned out that one of the nurses passed out. She had come on, Reese. Cardiomegaly. She had just had a baby and she had through a clot. and she was checking the patient's vitals and passed out, and the patient clicked the code and everybody went scattering. So we just put her on a gurney, brought her down, and got in touch with her family and everything. And then everybody was arguing, should we give her TPA, should we not, should we wait, should we do this, should we do. I was like, oh lord, somebody do something. So
Yeah, this is a funny, yeah.
yes.
Well, at least the patient had common sense enough to hit the button.
Yes, yes. At least they did, because that lady she was just fell out. And then when she came to, she was of course very confused. But they were like, "Well, since she's up and talking, do we really need to give TPA?" And I was like, as a student at the time, but I was like, I think if she has a clot, we should do something to dissolve the clot.
Yeah, she probably should. She probably should get. She's probably a TPA
Yeah, I
candidate.
was like, you should give her something. But yeah, that was cool. That was super cool. And then my psych inpatient experience, it was cool. It was like inpatient, outpatient. The people who are suicidal or psychotic, and they come in for like 7 to 14 days. Then they actually had a judge that would come here on their last day, make them swear that they're not going to have guns or anything like that, and then they let them go. But it was super cool to kind of see how that could have easily been me. I could have lost a family member and lost my mind, or decided to walk in the middle of the street because I don't want to be here no more. And then that's when I was like, well, psychiatry is really a different type of medicine, but I like it because it's
Mhm.
personal. And then that's when I had decided I think I want to do my elective and outpatient and see the difference. And it's so funny now because I really said I despise outpatient. It's like sitting in a clinic. I would never, and now I'm doing outpatient.
And I was the opposite. Like when with my public health degree and stuff, I always thought I wanted to do primary care, and it was my first rotation, and I hated it. Okay, like the demands of seeing people back, because it's like you can't. I always wanted to spend time with people and like make a difference, right? And but you don't get to actually hear what people are saying and really see what the barriers are. Like like a lot of people high blood pressure,
Right,
diabetes, right? But you don't really have the time to talk to them, like actually hear their concerns. And if they're not compliant, most people just, oh, you're not taking your medicine, let me switch you to something. But like, why aren't you compliant? Like, do you not understand what can happen? Do you not understand like how the medicine works, or what happens if you don't take, it's like you don't get to find the little things that are preventing a person from being compliant to try to help, right? Because it was like they would have, you used to get like a 1 hour, I think, for primary care for like a new
uh-huh,
visit, but they're like 30 minutes. So if you're meeting someone for the first time, I done spent 15 minutes just, the 30 minutes just trying to find out about you and, what I'm saying, your life. And then the follow up appointments would be 15 minutes. And then so one thing I feel that we didn't learn in
mhm.
school, and I learned from the time we hit, is like, we don't learn the business of
No,
medicine.
no.
You go to school, you learn the medicine and stuff, but when you're out in the real world, it is so business oriented. And for me, even in the hospital, like post COVID, like I stopped working in the
Mhm.
ER. I was doing PRN, because I shifted more time to my
Right.
own business. But even on top of that, it was so disheartening sometimes, the decisions that are made, or how things are
Mhm.
run, not based on what's best for the patients, but
Oh,
based on
yeah.
like business.
Yes, I didn't learn
And so
that
those,
until I went to school for my doctorate, and they taught me how to calculate your revenue, how what it means to be, a non or not for profit hospital versus a for profit hospital, and how the not for profit is really for profit but not really. And I was just like, well, how? And they were like, well, they're getting money from the government, and they got to show that they're spending their money wisely and that they're using up the money, but they're still making money. And I'm just like, of course they're still, that's a business. And they're like, no, they're still making money. And so they had to break it down, and I was just like, oh, okay. But just learning the differences, and I was just like, and then then we look at it from a global standpoint, and then I was just like, oh yeah, yeah, that's when I learned that the United States will never have universal health care because
no, it's sad. And it's like I learned, it's like, and I was in prime, and I was like, I felt like I just would be unfulfilled at that job because I would be working and not really helping anybody. I don't have time to help anybody, and I hated it. And I never really thought on my rotations that I wanted to do ER or like ICU or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. But I did my rotations, and I fell in love with the
Yes.
ER, the like ER. And you know the funny thing is, psych was my second option. So
Yay!
psych was my very yes, psych was my very last rotation in school, right? And it was like a 4-week rotation.
Uh-huh.
So for me, I'm just like, oh, I'm not really interested in psych, you know. So that was just the one thing standing in the way of me graduating, right? So I just need to make it through this rotation. So I had an inpatient psych rotation at
Mm-hmm.
GW and I loved it. Like if I didn't, you know, I wanted to get more clinical experience and like right, you know, prescribing and stuff before I felt like I got so specialized as to do like psych.
Uh-huh.
But I loved it so much. I'm an empath.
Yeah.
But I also realized that I don't think it's something that I could do.
Uh-huh.
And it would take me a lot of emotional
Yeah.
management to you know, because to separate, you need that
Mm-hmm.
balance, right? Like of managing your own emotions and not taking on your patients, you know, because you hear things. And psych actually, my psych experience actually it humbled me so much. Not that I didn't care before, but you know,
Yeah.
it's humbling when you see like in DC, you see all these homeless people and different things, and you see people, and it's like everybody has a
They do.
story, and we don't know their story, you
Yeah.
know? And so I would meet these people on a rotation, and you read their chart, or you just sit and just have a conversation with them, like, you know, and see them as a person.
Yes.
And when they would tell you some of the things they went through, and I'm sitting here thinking like, well, one, I don't even know if I personally would have been able to survive that, or if I how I would have even made it.
Ooh.
But I probably would have done the same thing. Like I can see how people end up on drugs. I can
Yes.
see how people end up going to jail for different
Yes.
reasons. I can see how people end up homeless. And some of these people had full lives and careers and families and different things, or just have a mental disorder
Mm-hmm.
with no support and they end up where they are. So it was the most eye open and humbling experience. And I applaud you for doing it because special people have to do it.
Thank you.
It is. And I just realized for me it may be too much for, you know, like every day for me.
Yes. Yeah, because you hear things and I'm just like, Lord have mercy. At first, I didn't know what to do, but then I was like, compartmentalize, compartmentalize, or think of it from a perspective that you're listening because you do care, but you're caring from a standpoint as I'm listening because as you're talking, oh, I don't eat, or I lay in the bed all day, or I can't take a shower, or since I was raped, I have flashbacks, or I have nightmares, and I'm just like symptoms, symptoms. What medication can I give you? And even though there's nothing I can do to change what happened to you, but we can change, we have control of the future. So if I get you, optimize and your quality of life being better, you can go and have a successful future. So I just think of it from that perspective. Like I'm trying to help you
Mhm.
now in the now. I can't do nothing about the past. I'm sorry that happened to you. I empathize. I'm a little bit more empathetic than this, but um, I can't. I can get you into therapy.
You have to. You have to
Yeah.
separate it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I just try to and still keep my boundaries, but still kind of make them feel like, we're partners and to an extent, I'm kind of like your professional friend. So anything you don't like that we
Mhm.
do, then don't do it. Like I always tell my patients that I give you some medicine you don't like how it make you feel, don't take it. We're starting out at the lowest dose, so you don't take, just stop it. It ain't like you've been taking it for 20 years,
Mhm.
just don't take it. And they're like, wow, okay. And I'm like, yeah, psych doesn't have to be scary. We're not committing to anything.
Mhm.
This is trial and error.
And then more people like you. You know, I feel like you know, just having compassion is a lost art. Like listening to
Yeah.
people. Like we've lost. You get so caught up in doing your job, and you want to get to the next patient, and you got this time
Oh, yeah.
frame that people just don't listen to people. You know what I mean? That is a basic lost art. Listen to people, right? It's like we have the knowledge, yes, but you can't tell someone about their body. You know what I mean? Or they're telling you what you need to know,
Mhm.
but it's like, are you listening to help connect? You know what I mean? To connect the
You'll
dots.
be surprised. Ever since COVID, they have all these apps where they're like, see a mental health professional through the apps. But for most of my patients that come to me that have tried that, they've been diagnosed wrong and put on the wrong medicine, and they're like, it's not their, it's like they're not listening to me. And I want to see
Mhm.
somebody in person, or I want to come to see somebody locally, and you listen to me. And we got this, half the time they're diagnosed wrong. Bipolar 2 disorder is missed left and right. And so I'm just like, Lord have mercy. They put them on Wellbutrin, the worst thing ever. So I'm just like, listen, 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 listen. They made them go into a manic episode and they're like, woo, I can't. And I'm just like, no, stop taking that. Let's switch to something else.
'Cause I mean, Jesus, all of us was probably depressed at some point during this COVID
Yes.
situation. So if that's the case, somebody gonna call you. Like we all, most of us probably just needed some therapy, right, or some coping skills.
Mhm.
Everybody, some people do need medicine, but some of these people, y'all would just, oh, let me prescribe you this. They probably didn't need it. Everybody was going through an
Right.
adjustment and a rough patch. Maybe you should have tried say, hey, let's try to work on some coping skills or get you into
Right.
therapy. And then if that's not working, but they just, people just want to throw something at you to move on.
They do. And then let me ask you this, because speaking of throw something at them, so when you think about urgent care, because you never see these people again. So so it's
Hmm.
just kind of like when people before, like you decided, okay, I'm going into business, I'm gonna open up my urgent care. How? Like, how did you go about that process? Is it just you, like the main person? Do you have a SP? Like, how did you find your SP? How did the process go? And I guess the second half of my question would be, when you're seeing patients in urgent care, what is your thought process besides, like, I have to, fix whatever it is, acuity that they're coming in here for? But like, do you, the patient education standpoint, or if they have a primary care, because I know I could think a lot of them probably don't, or like, what's the population and things you see?
Well, starting with Redicare is a house call and telemedicine business. So I wanted to make it mobile. Like I grew up in North Carolina in a rural area and just noticing like people don't get like the access to
Mhm.
care. All that some people just don't understand what their condition is and all this.
Right.
And so moving up here and going through school, working in a different like the urban area, a lot of the complaints and things are the same. I can't get to the doctor. They don't listen to me. I didn't understand this, and that. And so even when I first graduated, I always in my mind thought I wanted to do something that was more like holistic or comprehensive. I was always in my mind like, I want to do house calls. Like what if I can, do this at home for
Mhm.
people? But I needed more
Right.
experience. So it's like right before COVID, it was just something that was on my mind, on my mind, on my mind. And like I always say, sometimes when God puts something on your
Mhm.
heart, right? Like I could, something that it wasn't like a passing
Right.
thought. For years, it was a consistent thought. And I said, I spent a year researching. I'm just gonna do it because I'm a person like I'd rather do it and it not work out than for me to be, 5 or 10 years down the line saying, well, what if I
Right.
did it? This is heavy on me for some reason. So the November before COVID, I had actually registered my business. And then COVID happened. I started this process, got an attorney, this and that. My SP, by the way, I used to work with him in the ER. And I had this conversation with him just talking, like, because we sit side by side. And I used to joke with him. I said, so when I start this business, you're going to be my SP? And he was like, of course. So I don't know if he thought I was joking or
Uh-huh.
not, but he had moved and went to another hospital, but we were Facebook friends and still in contact. So when I registered a business, I kind of got a little framework together. I said, so you remember when I said I wanted to do
Yes.
this and you said you would, so I'm doing
Yes.
it. And he agreed. And so it took me like a year from actually registering, getting all the licenses and um getting my EA, all these things set up for me to see my first patient. So I saw my first patient November
Okay.
2020. I'm a full service urgent care. So like mobily, anything, most of the things that you would go to an urgent care center for, I'll come to you. So you need stitches, staples, a checkup. I carry antibiotics. I carry basic meds like like Toradol and things that you commonly use. I can do flu, strep, RSV tests, COVID tests, flu vaccines. We do all that
Mhm.
mobily. Then what happened is I got pigeonholed into COVID because everything was COVID dominated. People, we were quarantining. People wanted
Mhm.
testing, vaccinations. So the county government heard
Mhm.
about me, and I ended up getting a contract with them.
Wow.
So for me to my patient in November, I got this contract in April, and I had to
Mhm.
hire 12 people. So within 6 months, I went from me to 12 people. So it happened fast. And so then we did a lot of most of the work in the last year has been more COVID dominated, like doing pop up clinics, testing in home and at like churches, festivals. We were doing like 30 a month at one point, 20 to 30 a month. Some days I would have two or three clinics a
Uh-huh.
day. So now that COVID's slowing up, and in between, I would do the home
Mhm.
visits. And so now that COVID's slowing up, I'm trying to train everyone and shift my focus back to marketing all of the other
Yes.
services, yeah, that we take to get out of the COVID, because that was only one of my services, but it became such a big
Yes.
piece. Um, so in terms of my supervisor, and we do telehealth visits
Oh.
as well, but in terms of my supervisor physician, he's pretty hands
Mhm.
off. Like every state is different. I hate that. Like I feel like everything should just be uniform. PAs can do this. It should apply to each state, but so each state is different in the way your business has to be
Mhm.
structured. But my SP is pretty. He's involved when I need him to be involved, but he in Maryland he doesn't have to co-sign all our
Okay.
charts, but he does chart review.
Mhm.
We check in to stay up to date, but that's how that worked. Oh, you asked me about the patients, urgent care patients. So when I worked in an urgent care facility, just like kind of like you with
Mhm.
psych, it's so specialized, like ER and urgent
Right.
care. In the ER, my job is to figure out what is
Yeah.
emergent now? You know what I mean? Like I can't fix your home part. I need to know if you're really sick or you're a little sick or
Mhm.
not sick. Can you go home? Do you need to be
Right.
admitted? And it's like you have a framework, like you say how you sit and say symptoms, symptoms,
Right.
symptoms, right? In the ER, you're trained to think about the worst case
Yes.
scenario. You have chest pain, my mind is working about all the things that this chest pain could be, what I need to order to rule out the worst
Mhm.
things, or I'm saying whatnot. Um, Urgent care being in the interim, like yeah, a lot of people don't have insurance, they're not as sick or don't need to go to the ER, but some people do come in there and they're pretty
Mhm.
sick. The urgent care mind frame is more, I feel like it's more of a convenience field. Um, One, when people come in the facility, you need to determine from the jump if they're sick or
Mhm.
not sick. Some people are too sick and they don't. You got chest pain or certain stomach pain or whatever. You don't need
Right.
to be
Right.
here. You need to go to the ER. But for the other people, it's a matter of convenience. It's normally um, I can't get in with my doctor, or my doctor's office is closed. And you guys have extended hours. I don't have insurance because I'm not really sick. Some people I don't really get sick
Mhm.
often, so I just want to pop in here and get this prescription. So I feel like urgent care
Yeah.
is not, we don't really get into the social things, and when you got a primary care or not, it's more um, a convenience field. I feel like.
Yes. Yes. We used to have at our urgent care some people come in with the strips for the diabetic strips for their little machine. Or either they would come in for to get a prescription for the little needle things, and I was just like, "Do you not have a primary care?" Because then my mom would just go, "But okay, you want a the $1,000, $15,000 bill for coming in the yard, and I guess, I guess."
Mhm. And it's sad because some of the people with all of these constraints, some people cannot get an appointment with their urgent
Mhm.
care. I mean, with their primary care provider in a timely manner.
Mhm.
I've heard a lot of people complain like I can't get in, or I even tried to schedule an appointment with my primary in September. I couldn't see her till
Whew.
November.
Lord have mercy.
So how can people? I mean, you try to communicate with them on the portals and stuff, but older people don't. They're not gonna know how to log into the portal and send a
Oh, no.
message and check the message. So for me, being mobile, it kind of alleviates that for people. And because everyone that works with me has an ER ICU background, we're able to do more service comfortably, or say like you need to do this or need to do,
Mhm.
or kind of help direct them or guide them to where they need to
Right.
go. So
Yep, that makes sense. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I guess coming up in 2025, they said, no, 2050, that we are going to take over. So they're talking about the shortage is going to get worse and that PAs and NPs are going to take over. And I'm just like, well, we're kind of already taking over in a way. Because I think a lot of doctors done already, especially after COVID, I think that tired a lot of people out or either scared a lot of people or they have that PTSD that they were treating people that they couldn't save. And now they died and
Mhm.
they had to watch it happen over and over. And so a lot of people just decided, I'm done. Like, I'm done with medicine.
A lot of people are leaving
Hmm.
nurses, PA. Like I think the way I've noticed just in the hospital system, it changed so
Right.
much pre and post COVID in terms of I think they're so busy trying to recoup all the money that was lost now that it is no regard for people's
Hmm.
licenses, their happiness and well being at work, work life
Right.
balance, and for those of us that worked with COVID from the beginning, you're burnt out and they want more, and people are like mental health luckily has become more at the forefront, and I'm so glad, especially in like minority like African American community. I'm so happy that we're getting to a place where mental health is kind of at the forefront, and now people are just like, look, I don't this ain't healthy for me. I'm stressed out. I'm not gonna do it. And you have to do that, right? Like I took these last 3 months off because it's just too much. I need,
Mhm.
you know what? I need a minute, you know?
Yes, and I look at other countries like I think it's Australia or somewhere in Europe where like the whole city shut down at 12 o'clock every day and everybody go home for like an hour or two and then they resume or either they're closed for the day. They're only open from like 8 to 12 for that day and that's a full day and then they go home and they want you to spend time with your family and spend time for
Mhm.
yourself and your mental health and all that. And I'm just like, well, I wonder. I mean, we researched this a little bit in my doctorate program, but how prevalent is suicide or other things on the other side of the world or these cities compared to the United States? And I'm just like, oh
Mhm.
Lord, if we could get like a 4 day work week or something like that, cut out 12-hour shifts because if I'm tired, I'm not thinking straight. That's why I didn't go into the hospital because I was like, if I'm eating chocolate and I'm constantly eating and typing up on caffeine because my eyes are bloodshot red and I can't think straight, I'm not going to be no good to anybody at all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
Well, my love, if people want to connect with you or if they want to find you, how can they? And if they want to book with you or call you to say, I'm an expert to swing by the house, how can they find you?
But listen, we're on Facebook, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram. On Instagram, my business is at Redicare Health, Redicare Health. My personal page is It's Ashley Toliver.
Yes.
Um, Facebook, we're Redicare Mobile Health Service, and LinkedIn as well. Website, if you want to book an appointment, check us out, see what services we offer, www.readycarehealth.com, or you can give us a call, 301-307-5335.
Yes, you better. You better. I love it. I love this Black Girl Magic. I have to definitely say, you are the only PA I know. Don't beat me up if there are other ones out there, but you literally are the only PA that I know that have your own business and out here killing it, but also representing. So I thank you. I thank you for everything you do. And I thank you for coming on the show because it was great catching up with you. Now we can definitely say
I
we done seen each other and talked because we just not Instagram friends.
I know. I'm and thanks for having me. I think is it's good to have these
Yes.
conversations, and definitely in a more relaxed forum, just so people can just hear different perspectives, or just just chit chatting and having fluid conversations.
Yes, definitely. Well, I have enjoyed my time with you, and I hope that our audience enjoyed listening to us. And I hope that you guys check out the show notes. All her contact information will be down there, and reach out to her and give her feedback about this episode and what you thought. And if you felt inspired, definitely. Well, guys, thank you for listening to this week's episode, and I will see you back on the next one. Take care, guys.
Bye.